More power to girl power. Masimba akanyanya kumadzimai.
Amandla ngokugcweleyo kwabesifazane.
Aiwa, no way. Hayikhona.
It's a very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We are broadcasting live from our ZTN studios in Harare, Zimbabwe's capital. My name is Munashe Mukahlera, and this special program is brought to you by Zimpepers Television Network in partnership with the United Nations. Now, the International Day for Women was first celebrated in 1975 during the International Women's Year and was officially proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in 1977. And since then, it has been commemorated across the world annually on the 8th of March. Now, this year's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World, while the national theme is Women's Rights to Decision-Making, Vital in the Fight Against the COVID-19 Pandemic. Now, today's program is definitely running under the theme SDG 5, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World, Youth and Civil Society Dialogue. I'm joined in studio by Mildred Mushunje, Chair of the Spotlight Initiative Civil Society Reference Group, Shamiso Madzivire, a lecturer and acting chairperson in the Sociology Department at the Midland State University, Ben Jermaine Ngube, Executive Director of Men's Health Clinic, and Bruce Nyoni, Founder and Director of the Albino Trust of Zimbabwe. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you.
Now, before we get into today's discussion, we'll start by listening to remarks from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. Let's have a listen.
The COVID-19 pandemic has erased decades of progress towards gender equality. From high job losses to exploding burdens of unpaid care, from disrupted schooling to an escalating crisis of domestic violence and exploitation, women's lives have been upended and their rights eroded. Mothers, especially single mothers, have faced acute anxiety and adversity. The consequences will far outlast the pandemic. But women have also been on the front lines of pandemic response. They are the essential workers, keeping people alive and holding economies, communities and families together. They are among the leaders who have kept prevalence rates lower and countries on track for recovery. This year's International Women's Day highlights the transformative power of women's equal participation. We are seeing it ourselves at the United Nations, where I am proud that we have achieved gender parity in UN leadership posts for the first time in history. The evidence is clear. When women lead in government, we see bigger investment in social protection and greater inroads against poverty. When women are in parliament, countries adopt more stringent climate change policies. When women are at the peace table, agreements are more enduring. And with women now serving in equal numbers at the top leadership posts at the United Nations, we are seeing even more concerted action to secure peace, sustainable development, and human rights. In a male-dominated world, with a male-dominated culture, gender equality is essentially a question of power, and males are an essential part of the solution. I call on countries, companies and institutions to adopt special measures and quotas to advance women's equal participation and achieve rapid change. As we recover from the pandemic, support and stimulus packages must target women and girls specifically, including through investments in women-owned businesses and the care economy. Pandemic recovery is our chance to leave behind generations of exclusion and inequalities. Whether running a country, a business or a popular movement, women are making contributions that are delivering for all and driving progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. It's time to build an equal future. This is a job for everyone and for the benefit of everyone. Thank you.
Now, the Secretary General just highlighted that the COVID-19 pandemic has weighed in about a decade when we're looking at progress for women's equality. But we will continue to listen to more remarks. Up next, we'll have remarks from the EU Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Mr. Timo Olken.
Happy International Women's Day to everyone. The International Women's Day is an important day for us to take stock where we are in terms of promoting women's rights and the promotion of gender equality. It is a time for us to celebrate achievements, but it's also time for us to recognize that we are not where we should be. 26 years since the adoption of the Beijing Platform of Action, and 21 years since the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 of Women, Peace and Security, we are still far from where we should be. The important inequalities persist. Women's access to health services, to social services, to economic opportunities and jobs are not at par with those of men. Recently, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've witnessed a further erosion of women's rights in terms of increased gender-based violence and teenage pregnancies. I'm very happy to be here today in the framework of the Spotlight Initiative and to share this platform with our partners, the government of Zimbabwe, the UN family, and the civil society. I'm very happy that the organizers have paid special attention of inviting people with disabilities and young men and women into this event. Indeed, the topic of discussion is a very important one, of how do we roll back on those setbacks that we have had during the COVID-19 pandemic, and how we forge ahead in a more sustainable way in the promotion of gender equality and women's rights. Gender equality is a universally recognized human right. It is also, and I'm very proud of this, it is one of the core values of the European Union. In November 2020, the EU adopted its third Gender Action Plan. The Gender Action Plan is the EU's blueprint of contributing and working towards a gender-equal world. In the third Gender Action Plan, special emphasis has been put on addressing the issue of gender equality and women's rights in terms of the COVID pandemic and the post-pandemic world. The EU looks forward to working together with all partners, and particularly civil society and women's organizations, in making this plan happen. The EU has selected a three-pronged approach in terms of promoting gender equality. First, gender equality is seen as a cross-cutting issue. Secondly, we have specific interventions in promotion of gender equality. And thirdly, we promote gender equality as a means of through the means of policy dialogue. This time is very opportune for us also to discuss these issues, as the European Union is in the midst of programming our development cooperation for the coming 7 years, for the multi-annual financial framework of 2021 to 2027. In this context, it's very important to note that the EU has made a commitment that by 2025, 85% of our development cooperation interventions contribute to promoting gender equality. And indeed, in our planning for Zimbabwe, gender equality, women's rights, the fight against gender-based violence are issues that we are looking at very closely. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you very fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Now, the ambassador definitely highlighted that as we celebrate women, we should also recognize that we are not where we would like to be, ideally, as we're trying to progress and, attain SDG 5. Without further ado, I will now get the discussion going as we kickstart with our guests against women and girls, especially in the COVID-19 era. We're looking at prolonged lockdown periods and victims are now closer to their perpetrators. What's the state?
Thank you so much, Munashe, and happy International Women's Day to all the women out there. When we look at the state of sexual abuse, I think what COVID-19 has done is simply to amplify that which has always existed. Statistically, the UN tells us that 1 in 3 women will experience or has experienced violence, some form of violence in their lives. So with COVID-19, what this means is that these figures are probably now exacerbated. We have heard of reports where women have been abused by partners, by husbands, children have been sexually abused, and there has been an ascension that this is largely because of the confinement of the COVID-19 restrictions. So we are seeing an increase in number of women and girls that are abused sexually. We are also seeing an increase in number of women who suffer at the hands of those that ideally they should trust. We have cases where women are trying to collect water from boreholes and they have been waylaid and abused. We hear of cases where women have been asked for sexual favors just to access a service which is rightfully theirs, which they should access without any payment, but they have been abused in those forms. So COVID-19 has just amplified.
When you say it has amplified, can we say we are having more cases being reported? Ideally, maybe people will be going through what they're going through, and then because they have an escape, they can go to work, they can go to school. So now do we have more cases being reported, or it's more cases being rampant? What's the situation?
We have more cases being reported. The Msasa Project, one of the NGOs working on GBV, reported an increase in the number of GBV cases that they've had to deal with. So I think it's definitely an increase in the number of cases that are being reported as women have become more aware of their rights and the referral system for reporting cases. I think there is that uptake of reporting cases. So definitely, I think it's not so much that maybe abuse hasn't happened in the past, but that there is an increase in the numbers and the reporting is high.
Thank you very much. Still on that note, I'll direct it to you, Bruce. In the community, we have women reporting. What has been your take? Can you say that women are more comfortable to come up and, tell us what's going on even during the pandemic, or they're still a bit more reluctant to come forward?
Thank you so much. I think that one is a $1 million question which you could ever ask. The most important thing that we need to understand is that COVID-19 is far lower than the existing people who have been abused because of a number of things. The laws themselves, whereby some of the people needed letters for them to travel. Some of them had little information as to when they should travel, even if they've been abused. So all those things are fundamentals that are coming into play as far as the abuse of women is concerned. To speak mostly to persons with disabilities, I think this has been actually even more because we have those with hearing impairment, those ones with visual impairment, those with albinism. The entire disability community, I think there is a lot that has been happening. And as a nation, especially on such days, this is where we should sit down and take stock and say, what have we done as men? What have we done to our women? What have we done to our sisters? What have we done to our aunties? What have we done to even our workmates? Because these are the times we need to reflect.
Thank you very much. Before we continue with our discussion, we'll also listen to the remarks that will be given by the UN resident coordinator, Ms. Maria Ribeiro.
Happy Women's Day to all women and girls in Zimbabwe. Indeed, it is an honor to join so many of you strong and innovative women and young people to celebrate the International Women's Day today. This event is being organized as part of the Spotlight Initiative, and let me take this opportunity to recognize the partnership with the Minister of Gender Affairs and also to very specially thank the European Union and its member states for their support, including being the main funders of the Spotlight Initiative. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. The COVID-19 pandemic has indeed once again demonstrated the power and resilience of women in Zimbabwe, despite the challenges and sometimes the social and economic obstacles thrown in their way. We celebrate the strength of Zimbabwean women, and we call on the government and all Zimbabweans to support and work with women to shape a more equal Zimbabwe as we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has presented each and every one of us with individual and collective challenges, but it has also provided us with an opportunity to reshape a better future. We at the UN in Zimbabwe want to celebrate the women here in the country working at the front lines of the pandemic as healthcare workers, caregivers, innovators, advocates, mobilizers, and community organizers, as well as entrepreneurs. Indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has a woman's face. Sadly, the pandemic is deepening pre-existing inequalities, exposing vulnerabilities in social, political, and economic systems, which are in turn amplifying the impacts of the pandemic. Discriminatory social norms, patriarchy, and perceptions of leadership as a male domain still weigh heavily. In Zimbabwe, although progress has been made with relevant laws and policies in place, achieving gender equality remains a challenge. According to UN Women, globally, women are 24% more vulnerable to losing their jobs and suffering steeper falls in income. The gender pay gap, already high, has widened, including in the health sector. Unpaid care has increased due to lockdowns in school and childcare closures. The burden of care on women has also increased. The pandemic has sparked a parallel epidemic of violence against women and girls. Gender equality is a fundamental human right that requires the attention it deserves. Our societies will not enjoy human rights, peace, and sustainable and inclusive development if gender inequality persists. We at the UN in Zimbabwe want to assure all women and girls in the country of our commitment to work with you and support you in building a more equal and inclusive society. That is why my challenge to you participants is to ask yourselves as young people and agents of change to embrace the UN Secretary General's 6-point plan to achieve gender equality in Zimbabwe and to personally commit to making it a reality. That is, to ensure equal political and public representation at all levels, to invest in the care economy, to remove barriers to women's full economic inclusion, repeal all discriminatory laws and policies, address violence against women, change mindsets, and call out systemic bias. Together we can make a difference to achieve gender equality and build a better and inclusive Zimbabwe under the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
So obviously the discussion keeps circling around how, in as much as we're making progress in society and communities, we still want to be able to achieve gender equality. Now, as we continue with our discussion, I'll direct my next question to Shamiso. Now, Shamiso, the grade 7 results came out and the national pass rate was quite low. Can we say that the government is doing enough in terms of public education, in terms of provision of public education and facilities to young girls?
Okay. I think it's no surprise that the results came out and they were shockingly low. From your regular face-to-face interaction to being something that's online. So with that being said, generally as a country, we were not prepared for that. It's not something that you can just wake up and have these systems already set up and going. So I would say no, not enough was done to prepare learners for the exams. And to add on to that, just the girl child is generally more vulnerable. So I wouldn't be surprised if we found that with those results, your female learners scored much lower than the males because you're in lockdown. You're expected to do all these household chores. It's very likely that your brothers might just be sitting around, or they get time to actually go ahead and do the schoolwork that they're supposed to do. Meanwhile, because you're the girl in the family, that work that's usually maybe done by the maid now falls onto you. You wake up in the morning, you have to clean the house, you have to make breakfast, lunchtime is on you, supper time is on you, which leaves a very short window for you to actually engage in the learning that you're supposed to be doing. To make it worse, we have things like power smartphones or whatever gadgets it is. So I think the government definitely needs to do a lot more work in terms of just preparing the education system. It's a bit delayed, but there's no such thing as too much of a late start. If we start now, that would be great. So it's really awesome to see that there's actually some research pending where people are looking into the education system, looking into the effect of COVID-19 on education, and just trying to figure out what can we do to better support our learners, so it's not a situation where we have half-baked kids, because that's what it is at the moment. We have people who are not fully prepared to move on to the next level, and yet we kind of just turn a blind eye and allow them to move on, which has a lot of problems.
Thank you very much, Shamiso. I'll direct this to you, Ben, as well. Obviously, she has highlighted the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the education system, and we're saying school children before we even get to the higher levels. Are you noticing it, and what can we do about this?
I really do think there is a noticeable disparity at this level. I think more of what we need to do is to capacitate these young people with the resources that they need, because the reality is such that COVID-19 is here to stay, and as long as that is the case, we need to figure out a way to ensure that young people have got access to online resources, they've got access to connectivity, they've got access to the devices which they need to use their, to engage, because this is, I really do think that the disparity is there, but there's so much we can do.
There definitely is so much we can do. Yes. We'll take a short break. Remember, this special program is brought to you by Zim Papers Television Network in partnership with the United Nations, and we're celebrating International Women's Day. We'll be right back.
Hi guys, my name is Tuntena Matai. Talk about young women and young girls. Growing up, I was raised by a young, brave woman, which is my mother. My mother told me that I lost my dad when I was 2 years old. So watching what my mother was doing as I was growing, I was raised as a strong young man, as you can see. So today I'm here to share with you that women are special. We should respect women. We should act as a ladder to make women.
My name is Nasresha Marita. I'm 17 years old and I live in Airport. My passion is to create an early marriage-free nation. I have sessions with the girl child. I have sessions on taekwondo. Why taekwondo? Because through taekwondo, one is taught moral obligations, one is taught tolerance, one is taught endurance. And I also have sessions on them, telling them about the implications and repercussions of early marriages. And with the young ladies, I use their stories to tell the girl child not to get into marriages earlier, because by getting married at an earlier age, they will experience challenges, so they have to wait for the right time. The community has been very supportive. They've come with different cases where by bringing these cases to me, they are considering me as a responsible person, as a responsible citizen. So they've really been supportive, and I thank them.
Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you're watching the special program brought to you by Zim Papers Television Network in partnership with the United Nations. Just a note, this program is being held under strict WHO guidelines in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we are celebrating International Women's Day. This year's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future Pandemic. Now, as usual, remember your input is important to us, so do continue engaging us on our social media platforms on Facebook, Zim Papers TV Network, on Twitter at ZTN News, and remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at ZTN. Now, as we continue with our discussion, previously we had been highlighting the challenges that women and girls are facing in society. Mildred, and Mildred, can we say Zimbabwe has done enough in terms of, women participation in politics, in parliament, in Senate, in the judiciary, and even in the civil service?
Munash, I think that's a straight no, a simple no to that question. If you look at our constitution, it talks about gender equality, and it is a provision for 50-50. But if we look at our parliament right now, we don't have that parity, we don't have that equality. There was a time when we reached, I think, about 30% of women parliamentarians, but that has been significantly eroded. So we seem to be regressing in terms of women's participation in politics. And suffice to say, the DG of the UN just highlighted the importance of having women in leadership positions and how transformational that is. So as a country, I would say that we have not reached gender equality, and there's still a lot that needs to be done in terms of getting women into leadership positions in public service, in private sector, in general leadership positions.
Okay. In your view, why would you say women aren't as active in politics? Can we say they're not willing, not enough opportunities?
Position into any political campaign. And a lot of the women that we have had interaction with the civil society tend to indicate that in terms of resources, in terms of the things that they have to give up, it's much more than what men have to. So if we consider the women's various roles that they have at household level, at community level, that alone can be a hindrance to their participation. And then, of course, I've talked about the financial resources, the financial muscle to pay for a campaign. The loss of time at home, it's a huge sacrifice, and I think we haven't reached a point where.
Straight to you, Bruce. We're trying to see how we can have more inclusivity of women in politics. What's your take? What can we do? Do we have them coming forward saying, you know what, I want to be part of it, but I don't have enough opportunities? Mildred just mentioned that we don't have them enough. It's a straight up no. What are you saying about that?
Thank you so much. That one is a question which any woman with a disability might be actually asking at this moment in time. So let me be honest, inclusive as we expect it to be. I'll give you an example. Women are more than 50% of the total population of this country. But I'm alarmed to see that they constitute less than 50% of the total population of those in parliament and those in leadership positions. When you go to any political rally, women would be constituting not less than 60%. But then when it comes to leadership positions, then they cease to exist. Then when it comes to the persons with disabilities, the women with very total population of those women, they are less than 3% of those people who have been allocated those positions. So I would say the current political environment is quite discriminatory. And for your own information, the current environment whereby there will be demonstrations for your own information are part of political activities. You would find out that most of these demonstrations, they end up being violent. And when they become violent, who would suffer most? Persons with disabilities, because some of them, they don't know how, they don't have legs to run. Most of them, they don't see, they don't know where to run to. So at the end of the day, they will be victims. So that on its own, it actually it diminishes their participation into the political arena. So as such, we look forward for the political system to be that inclusive as to leave no one behind.
Level. How do we spread enough awareness? Like Bruce just highlighted, you know, they want to be heard, but if we're looking at persons with disabilities, they can't even demonstrate. How can we do this from an awareness level?
From an awareness level, I would say we need to get to a point where we make use of all the platforms that we have at our disposal. So starting all the way from even within the schooling system, I don't think there is any awareness that happens really about political processes and even just trying to motivate. We don't have in schools that encouragement of girls to even try and pursue a political career. So I think starting off even with something as simple as your primary schools, your high schools, on the tertiary level, I think it's a bit better because we do have your SRCs and other bodies within the universities where people can start to get their feet into politics. But besides that, I think even within our communities, we can create those spaces where we work with even existing community-based organizations to raise that awareness, where it's people talking to each other on the same level, at that grassroots level where you're really sharing important information with your peers, people that you interact with and see every day. I think the information is more likely to sink in and to stick if we do it that way.
Thank you, thank you. Ben. Now, we're talking about awareness, raising awareness. You know, we want women to understand the power they have. We want them to understand that they actually can do it. But let's bring it to the men. Yes. Of course, they also have the right, they also have the responsibility, rather, you know, to play a role in educating, if it's the young girls, if it's women in society. So I'll hold you to this one now. What can you say you have been doing, or rather what can you be doing to make sure that you're also driving this awareness agenda on the aspect of men?
Right, thank you so much for that question. So what we've been focusing on as the Men's Health Clinic is to include the aspect of family into men's health. We are saying traditionally within the African context, men like to think of themselves as the providers, as the overseeing arc of their family. So we're saying to them, in as much as you want to execute that role, it is very important that you include your wife, your children, and your whole family unit in that aspect. Be a pillar of support to your wife in her endeavors to pursue whatever it is she needs to pursue, because if we look at the general nature of women is that they are carers. If a man has money in his wallet, he's going to buy alcohol, he's going to buy something for himself. But if a woman has money in her pocket, she's going to check whether there's food in the house, whether there's this and that. So we're essentially saying to men, the more you include women in higher positions within the family unit and outside of the family unit, the more likely there is going to be a bigger benefit for everybody, not just you, not just your family, but the nation as a whole. So that's what we've been trying to do in our several awareness initiatives, where we try to get a lot of inclusivity going on.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. As we continue with the awareness agenda, Mildred, as a Spotlight initiative, I mean, we have been seeing a lot of good work that you're doing with the campaigns. We're trying to educate not just the girls about their rights, about the men, about the boys as well, to understand that, you know, we also want to, you know, to empower our women. So with these projects that you've been doing, how receptive has the community been? Are we hearing girls coming forward to say, you know what, I have transformed my life in such and such a way, or men coming through to say, I have managed to impact society, you know, community in such a way? What kind of feedback have you been getting?
The feedback has been positive. We are seeing men coming forward, also questioning negative male masculinities that we, that men are so associated with. So from the communities, there has been positive feedback in that we're seeing transformation around gender relations. We're also seeing young girls, young women coming forward to say that they've been able to access services like health, education. That is transformational, because once young girls can go to school, they, once they're able to access health services, they are empowered, and that prepares them. It actually inoculates them against poverty, against having to stay in an abusive relationship, because they're economically empowered. So I would say from the Spotlight Initiative, there is a lot of transformation. And the fact that women are coming forward to report cases of gender-based violence, I would say that's a contribution of the Spotlight Initiative, amongst many other activities and projects that have been implemented in the past and that will continue to be implemented in the future. So definitely, I think there is a lot of transformation, but we can still see more of it. We still want more.
Definitely. On that note, Shamiso, yes, in communities we are having, outreaches, awareness and campaigns, but looking at the tertiary level, obviously this is where we are looking at the young adults. And when we're saying they're getting, do we have enough outreach coming into the tertiary institutions, or it's being left at community level? Is there a balance on that one?
I feel like with the outreach, strangely enough, it's more of the institutions themselves doing the work, where they go out and they share on different topics with other people within the communities. So I guess that's quite exciting as an academic, where as young people, we're not just waiting for people to come to us to bring us the knowledge. As people who are in a tertiary institution, you'd expect people to have this type of knowledge. You'd expect people to be proactive. So it's really great when we look at our tertiary institutions and we can see young people actually going out, coming up with innovative ideas, reaching out to the community. And I'll take, for example, my institution, MSU. We have the Sociology Student Society in my department. And you have those students who come up with their own ideas. They look around and see, what are the problems in society? Okay, we've got gender-based violence, we've got teenage pregnancy, we've got early or unplanned marriages. And they then start to craft different awareness campaigns and different responses, where they speak on that peer-to-peer level and trying to address some of the issues that we have in society.
Thank you very much, Shamiso. Now, as we continue with our discussion, we will hear from the Minister of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprise Development, Dr. Stembiso Nyoni. Let's hear her address.
Your Excellency, Mr. Timo Olkone, the Ambassador of the EU and Head of Delegation, Your Excellency, Ms. Maria Ribeiro, UN Resident Coordinator, distinguished panelists, youth and CSO representatives, ladies and gentlemen. From the onset, let me express my sincere appreciation to the joint government of Zimbabwe, EU and the UN Spotlight Initiative to eliminate gender-based violence, for creating such platform to engage youth, civil society, and persons with disability. Gender-based violence is a social issue, and it requires the engagement of everyone, particularly youth and grassroots movements who are trendsetters and influencers close to where the society is. That is family and community. Today, as we commemorate International Women's Day, the Ministry of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprise Development would like to reiterate its commitment to gender equality and women's empowerment. The COVID-19 pandemic has threatened to throw us off course from the aspiration and goals of Vision 2030 to be an upper middle income country, achieve gender equality as stipulated in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the African Union Agenda for 2063. The pandemic has revealed pre-existing socio-economic inequalities. In all this, it is clear to see that women continue to bear the brunt of socio-economic shocks as they carry the higher burden of unpaid labor and face secondary crises as a result of the pandemic, which is that of gender-based violence. Regardless of these issues, we see the brave effort that women have made in COVID-19 response, as they are at the forefront as healthcare workers, caregivers, and community advocates. And for this, they must be commended and celebrated. On International Women's Day, which is today, we need to look at the future and hope with hope and expectation that our goal for gender equality will be realized. Currently in Zimbabwe, women represent over 1/3 of parliament. This can only get better if we remain focused on the aim for gender equality and encourage women's continued participation in politics. We now see women as leaders in business and civil society organizations, showing that the country is progressing together with the world towards establishing equality in our society. As Zimbabwe joins the world in recovering from the pandemic, we need to seize this opportunity to build forward better and commit ourselves to ensuring women and girls get equal opportunity to achieve their dreams and aspirations. Women and girls are at the center of the National Development Strategy of 2021 to 2025, as government fully recognizes that women play a vital role in our society as mothers, sisters, and daughters. Their well-being, prosperity, and future is intertwined with the prosperity of the nation. The platform we have here today, featuring young women and civil society organizations, is crucial in hearing the different perspectives of what gender equality will look like as we recover from COVID-19 pandemic and strive to achieve the NDS-1 under the able leadership of our President, Dr. Edie Mnangagwa. The government of Zimbabwe remains committed to gender equality. This is articulated in various government policies under the Second Republic. Grown women's participation in the economy across all sectors, encourage and recruit more women in decision-making positions, and create more equal opportunities for employment and education for women. Government fully understands that national development priorities can only be achieved when all members of society, including youth, women, and persons living with disability, are given the space and opportunity to participate. Secondly, increasing youth and women advocacy initiatives and most welcome as we are doing today to promote gender equality across sectors. We look forward to a Zimbabwe where women, youth, persons with disability, and girls participate in society on equal footing and equal measure with the rest of our society. Working with development partners such as EU and UN under the Spotlight Initiative and other key stakeholders, my ministry remains committed to ensure that the country moves forward in building an equal and a promising future for all. I thank you.
For those of you just joining us, remember we're celebrating International Women's Day, and this year's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. Now, our discussion has been circling around so many issues that women and children are facing in societies and communities, and how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected a lot of the progress we have been trying to make. Now, the Honourable Minister has highlighted that the same thing we have been saying, that as much as we're trying to make progress, there's still so much more that can be done. And as we continue our discussion, we would like to talk about the technological aspect, as we're living in the technology era. But my question is, well, I'll start with Mildred rather. My question is, when it comes to technology and financial inclusion, what has been done, what can be done, what are we doing for us to ensure that there is more inclusion? Because we can't just be talking about the urban areas only, we're also trying to get technological advancement in the rural areas as well. What's your take?
I think my quick take on that is the introduction of the Women's Bank has been very revolutionary, transformational. A lot of women who wouldn't have had access to finance are now able to access finance through the Women's Bank. And then there are a number of online platforms like your money wallet services, which have made financial inclusion possible even for the women in the rural areas. If there is not a bank close by, there is the possibility of the mobile banking. There is the possibility of your wallet services. So I think in terms of financial inclusion, we are moving towards the right direction. The Reserve Bank developed a financial inclusion strategy, which talks a lot about the inclusion of women and women's participation in the financial sector. So I'd say in terms of financial inclusion, there are evident steps towards that, and the Women's Bank has been very progressive in that direction.
Definitely, Shamiso. We are talking about how financial inclusion and technological advancements can help us in, ensuring that women can attain that level of equality we're trying to get to. What can you say about the aspect of technology, especially looking at the tertiary institution levels, when we're trying to say we want all women and girls to be able to access enough education, especially in this COVID-19 era where we can't do face-to-face learning, everything is e-learning, but then there's that technological hindrance.
I think with the aspect of looking at the tertiary institutions, we have your private players who've come in, who are trying to improve the access to different types of technology for young people. So for example, we have your e-learning bundles that are there, where it's you're getting data at a lower cost. So we have people doing things like that. We have people who are coming in with scholarships for young people, especially young women. But in terms of the country as a whole, trying to bridge that gap for women and girls, I think it would take a lot of research. First of all, we can't just be dishing out interventions with a one-size-fits-all approach. So as an academic as well, I would say we need a lot of research in that area where we're actually disaggregating all this data and finding out this specific group of people, what type of support do they actually need? Is it just that we're giving them data bundles? Do they even have the machines to use? Do they even have network in their areas? Do they have the time to sit and actually study? As I said before, there's so many things that fall onto the girl child within the home. So it's not just about us addressing the issue of technology and finances. It's also addressing all these stereotypes and all these expectations as far as gender roles are concerned, because they're all part of the bigger picture with how we improve access to education for women and girls especially.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruce. What's your take on this, especially when we're trying to say we want inclusion with technology, but also we should also bear in mind that when it comes to looking at persons with disabilities, there's that, there's that hindrance, there's that disparity when we're saying you can give them, but then, do they have enough access to it?
Right, thank you so much. This is a brilliant question. Let me say, the challenge that we are having, especially for young women with disabilities, is that Zimbabwe has been leading as far as education is concerned, special needs education to be specific. But now we are dragging behind because we are not embracing technology as much as we are supposed to. So you would see that some of our websites that we have, websites of different companies and entities, they are not user-friendly to those with visual impairment who uses software such as Screen Reader and JAWS, so much that they are not even compatible with them. And we recommend that when we are availing technology, let it be inclusive so that we leave no one behind. When it comes to the issues of financial inclusion, COVID-19 has long and devastating effects, which spared no one behind. But I feel that the women with disabilities were hit the hardest because they had a lot of promises which were made, which were never fulfilled by the government, whereby the loans were supposed to come and they said, we are going to give you loans, we are going to give you this, and all those things never came into fruition. So as we are talking, if we are really meaning financial inclusion as a nation, let's adequately resource our needy and vulnerable communities as to achieve the gender equality that we are talking about.
Definitely. And your take, Ben?
I think in as much as there's an apparent race for us to get more young people with access to technology and access to education during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think we must also look at the different risks that come with this new platform. For starters, there are now issues which are emerging such as cyberbullying, and there are issues which are specific to our young girls such as sexual predators who are finding it easier to do so online. So I think in this race to get more technological access to young people and young girls, we must also then make efforts towards ensuring that we start looking at how to protect them as they use these platforms, which are clearly about to become the new way of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Thank you. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for today. We can't continue with our discussion, but let's just continue to remember that we are celebrating International Women's Day. Let's continue to give our women and girls the opportunity in society for us to, achieve gender equality. Now, today's program was running under the theme of SDG 5, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World, Youth and Civil Society Dialogue. Remember, this special broadcast was brought to you by Zimpapers TV Network in partnership with the United Nations. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.